Well, welcome back, Bear Scouts. We're getting set to start our project, and we're going to be doing the toolbox, which is shown in your Bear Handbook, okay? They give us a nice material list here of the items that we need to make this toolbox. And then on the next page, they actually give us the dimensions for all the material that we're going to need to cut in order to assemble our box. So I have a couple of pieces of wood that we have here that we're going to use to build the box with. And then I have a dowel rod. It's a rather large dowel rod, but we're going to use that to make the handle for our toolbox. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to mark the wood where we're going to cut the wood, and then we'll come back and show you what we've marked on the wood. All right, we've marked our material now according to the dimensions that were for the toolbox project in your Bear Handbook. So if you'll look here, we've got our two pieces of wood, and the first thing we did was to mark one of the boards for two pieces that are 17.5 inches long. Okay, so these are 17.5 inches, and these are going to be the sides of our toolbox. Now you'll notice I've put an X on the end of this board. This piece we're not going to use for this project, so the X will tell me that, that I don't need this for this project. But I'll save that because that's a nice little piece of wood. We might do another project with that at another time. All right, the next thing the handbook says for us to do is to mark a bottom 16 inches long, and this piece right here is 16 inches, and this piece will be our bottom. And then we need the two ends for our toolbox, and they're 10 inches apiece. So we have 20 inches of material here, and at 10 inches we're going to cut those two pieces apart, and these two pieces will be our ends. Now you'll notice that we've also marked some angles here, and so those are going to be the angles that we have on our in the handbook drawing here, and so you can see how the pieces will fit together. And we have our dowel rod over there, and we've marked where the holes for the dowel rod will go in when we go to do the final assembly. All right, now that we've got our material marked, we're going to cut out our material. So we'll see you right after we get that cut out. Just drilling some pilot holes so that when we put our screws in here, we won't burst our wood. We're using the handsaw to cut our dowel down to 18 inches for our handle. Bear Scouts, we've got all of our pieces cut now, and we've drilled some pilot holes in our pieces so that when we screw them together, we won't be breaking our wood all apart as we put those screws in. We've got some wood screws here, and these have a Phillips head on them, so we're going to use a Phillips screwdriver to put these screws into our toolbox to hold our toolbox together. We'll also have some wood glue here that we'll be using, and we'll put that on each of the joints, again, just to kind of help hold everything together. And so to kind of show you what that's going to be like, we're going to start with our bottom here, and we'll get our glue, and we'll put some glue on the bottom one edge of the bottom here. And then we'll get our side piece that's going to match up to that. And get a screw to start in there. And our boards are 1-inch boards, so we're using 1.5-inch screws to so that we go through the first board, in this case our end piece of our toolbox, and then take that into the base. And I think I'm going to start that screw into that base here because it's a little hard for me to hold by myself. So we'll start that screw into that side. And like I said, our boards are 1 inch wide, so we're using an 1.5-inch screw so that we get some, we can get that screw down into the other piece. Now the screws just barely come through on the other side. Gonna match that up here. And drive that in the rest of the way. And these are flathead wood screws, so we can turn those just a little bit, and they'll be flat on the surface of the wood, just like that. Okay. So I'll put the rest of these together, and then we'll show you the finished product when we come back. All right, bears. So this is what our toolbox looks like once it's assembled. We put the dowel in for the handle so that we can pick our toolbox up, and you can see we've put screws in to hold the bottom piece, and we put screws in the sides to hold the sides into the end pieces, and then we put a couple of screws into the bottom on both sides to, again, help hold the bottom into the box. And so now we can put things in our toolbox, and we're ready to go to the job and do what we need to do. Now, one of the items in this requirement is to put a finish on a project that we make. And so I have here some wood stain, and then I have some polyethylene, a clear gloss coat, and we'll look at putting those on our toolbox here, so we've got a finished surface with our toolbox. And so to start that, let me reach over here and get a screwdriver so I can take the lid off of this. Well, I guess the first thing I want to do is get some gloves on so I don't stain my fingers. So this is you can wear gloves when you're working with stain or paint, either one. Makes cleaning you up a little easier if you have some gloves and you don't get that paint or varnish on your hands. Okay, so I'm not using a brush. What I have here is a little piece of cheesecloth, and so we'll be using that cheesecloth to spread our stain out on our box. So we're going to shake that a little bit, make sure it's mixed up well, and then we're going to take the lid off, and we just pry that up with the edge of a standard screwdriver, or you may actually have a tool that's designed to take those lids off. All right, and so get my cheesecloth ready here, and we're gonna dip our cheesecloth into our varnish, and then let's just start with the side here. We'll take that, and then we're just going to move that right down the side, putting that varnish coat on there. And you'll see that the particular color that we're using is not providing a lot of contrast, so we're not putting a great big stain on there, but you can see how it does kind of highlight the darkened portions of the wood that we're working with. So again, we'll put that on our box as we move around the box. Other nice thing about having gloves on is if you wind up hitting yourself while you're putting your stain on there, or painting, either one, it's not a big deal. Okay. Let's see if we can put a little more color on this side. There, I think you can begin to see some of the difference between the unfinished side and this side that we've now stained. So we're going to finish staining our toolbox here, and once we're through with that and we get a chance to finish with our stain, then we'll let that dry, and then we'll look at putting our clear gloss on over top of that. So when we're through with that, we'll show you exactly what that looks like, okay? All right, now we want to show you the finished product. Here we go. This is our toolbox that we've been working on. We put one coat of stain on this, and then we've put a coat of clear gloss on this as well. And so I think it's turned out real well. One other thing you might consider doing, Scouts, if you're building a toolbox like this and you want to make sure the handle doesn't move, you remember how we drilled some pilot holes in the wood to keep the wood from breaking when we put the screws in? Well, you could drill some small pilot holes in the end of or in the top of each of the ends, and then put a little nail in there to go into the handle, so that the handle, one, will not turn, or two, fall out of your toolbox. But this would be something you could make a nice gift for a family member, or make a useful toolbox for yourself, so that you can start collecting your hand tools and be able to help out around the house with some of the things that you might do, or just to work on some of the fun projects that you might work on. All right. So Scouts, it's your turn now to take what you've learned in this video and to apply it in completing the requirements for Baloo the Builder. All right. So I wait to hear back in terms of the great things that you've done. So we'll see you next time, and remember, it's great to be alive and scouting.